Now, calm down and hear me out now, but this is the most important year ever for Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State University, player or coach. Teach me how to Gundy, just do some new moves.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. Of course, you know we're available on every single podcasting platform, as well as visually on YouTube, and you can find me personally on Twitter at AllDayOState. Teach me how to Gundy, but with some new flavor, with some new moves. This is the most important year ever for Mike Gundy because it's a bounce back season. Now, we all know historically he does pretty well in these moments of bounce back. But we've been talking for, 10 months now about the Colorado situation. So it is what it is. Shout out to all the regulars out there. I appreciate you all riding through. So that's not exactly breaking news, in my personal opinion. But it does allow us to shed some light on the fact that the Big 12 is, in fact, growing. So it's no longer just some random dude with some random podcast sitting behind the mic anymore. Right now, it's legitimate. Now it's real. Now it's happened. And that means more is to come, right? That's a little leak to the second segment. But right now, let's discuss why. Why is this the most important year ever for Mike Gundy? Well, it's because the landscape of the Big 12 is going to continue to grow, right? You all know we have been one of the top 10 winningest programs in all of college football for the last decade to 12 years. That's a decent amount of time. That means most of the recruits that are going through the cycles now, they do know Oklahoma State has been pretty daggone successful. I think most could agree we need to take that next jump, right? We're the team that always gets our fingertips to the mountaintops, but never quite over the daggone thing. Now's the time. Now, I'm not saying we have to go win a Big 12 title. I'm not saying that per se, but I am saying we need to make a good account for ourselves. And we need to make sure that we put ourselves in the top half, top three of the Big 12 right here, right now, this season. Not only because OU and Texas are leaving, not only because Colorado is now going to be a member of the conference, but now you know what else is about to potentially come down the pipeline. So recruiting is going to get more difficult. Landing big-time guys is going to get more difficult. The idea that we can continue to Rob Glass our way through 2-star, 3-star guys, get them into the pros, yes, it will work. And it'll work even better to some degree because we know with the transfer market that the recruiting analysis system is going to be a little bit skewed towards high school kids. They're not going to get the same amount of love and evaluation they used to get. So are there still going to be plenty of diamonds in the rough? Yes. Yes, there is. But you got to win on the diamonds in the rough, right? You can't just have a whole bunch of them and hope that more than a handful pan out. We talked about how a lot of high school recruits love Tim Rattay. We talked about how this year we've gone back to the well that is the state of Texas in recruiting. Not that we completely abandoned it, but we did for quite some time have the ability to get other recruits in other states that were considering other big-time programs. So we didn't just have to exclusively rely on the state of Texas, but it's a good piece to have in your tool belt. Recruiting the state of Texas is massively beneficial for everybody in America, especially us in Big 12 country. This Big 12 country, the new Big 12 country, the growing Big 12 country, it doesn't matter. The Big 12 is going to get more eyeballs than basically ever before because of Brett Yormark, because of the marketing, because of the Mexico thing, because of the exclusive NFL combine that the Big 12 only has, because of the addition of not only Colorado University, but Deon Sanders. And for all of those Pac-12 people, primarily Beaver fans, chill out. If you get an invite, great. If you don't, you don't. There's literally no need to be throwing a bunch of shade towards Colorado at this point in time, unless you're envious, as it kind of appears, because you know you're probably going to not necessarily get a seat at the table. You now know the Pac-12 is, again, what we've been talking about, going to be a glorified G5. It is what it is. The Pac-12's done this themselves. But Gundy needs to take this opportunity, and I think that he can. But it's important. All gas, no brakes. This season, above all other seasons, no conservative Gundy. None of it. We don't need it. We don't want it. You don't need it. This is a perfect time for you to take that next step, to cement the even greater legacy that you already have. You can make it better. More trophies, more trips to Arlington, more potential trips to the CFP playoff. I don't care if it's 4 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams, 8 teams. I don't give a hoot. The Big 12 will have a representative in every year. I would wager that 90% of the time, the Big 12 will have 2 representatives when they go to the 12-team format. So this is the time. This is the time for all of the recruits out there that are freshmen and sophomores and on their way. Whenever you look at the Big 12, you will know that if I don't go to the Big 10 or I don't go to the SEC, I got to go to the Big 12. Going to the Pac-12 does nothing for me anymore. Going to the ACC, I mean, as we'll discuss a little bit later on, the ACC, they're in a little bit of a mess, but there's potential ways out of it. Dollar bills, y'all. Money speaks volumes for everybody, and it always will. Is this exclusively about money? No. Most of it is about what we've talked about: security, stability, the future, which is why I've said, yeah, let Oregon State fans, Washington fans, Stanford fans, whatever, let them throw all the shade about, oh, congratulations, you got the worst team in the Pac-12. Okay, cool. But they won't be. Deon Sanders is going to get them players. Now, are they going to be able to manage it correctly? Who flipping fracking knows? But he will get the dudes to Colorado. He will. They will have a chance to be competitive athletically every single stinking weekend. They will. Is it going to be right away? No, probably not. But if you see the clips that he's had out with Joel Klatt and stuff, he's building this thing the right way. There are parents, there are coaches, there are recruiters, there are scouts out there that see that understand that Deon is doing this the right way. And as much as anyone wants to throw shade at Colorado, fine, go ahead. But it will bring more eyeballs. It will bring more dollar bills. So for some of the 4 newcomers, not really, just a couple, but for the ones that are complaining about Colorado getting a full share, let's take into consideration, they were part of the Big 12 forever and a day, right? The early 1900s, mid 1900s. Come on now. Come on. Like, you got to give them that. And it shakes the apple cart. It starts this domino effect, which we're about to get to. That's the leak. But this is the most important year ever for Gundy for this reason. You got to put yourself out there as one of the top dogs all the time. Texas Tech's going to be good. BYU's going to be good. Houston's probably going to figure it out eventually. UCF's going to get there. Cincinnati, probably, they'll find a way. That's a very good hotbed of recruiting area, and now they have a little bit more ammunition than ever, and they've been leaning behind the Big 12 more than anybody other than BYU, right? They were the first. Cincinnati was the first to kind of get it going and put it out there for recruits to see. Baylor is always going to have the opportunity to strike. Kansas State ain't going nowhere. If KU can find a way to keep Lance Leipold, they're probably not going anywhere anytime soon either. The Big 12, from top to bottom, is going to continue to be the toughest conference. That will be a known thing for every recruit out there. So the days of the Big 12 being, it's hit and miss on if you can get to the league in the Big 12, those days are over. So you must be at the forefront of that. People have to think of Oklahoma State right there, right? If you're going to come to the Big 12, Oklahoma State needs to be at the forefront of this conversation. I don't care if TCU's in there, K-State's in there, Baylor's in there, BYU's in there. They've earned it. They deserved it. I get it. But we have to be there too. And we can be. We absolutely can be, between the facilities, between the success, between the guys in the NFL, between just the development of Rob Glass, the continuity of the coaching staff, the family atmosphere, the cowboy culture that, yes, we've rebuilt. We need to put that on full display. We've rebuilt everything we need to in-house. Mike Gundy is ready to take this thing down, and he's going to do it like he did in the beginning with an innovative offense that was pretty ruthless and pretty cutthroat. I don't care if we run the ball 75,000 times a game. I'm okay with that. But let's prove a point when we do it. And when we do have the opportunity to put a team out of the misery at halftime, yeah, you just got to do it, man. We got to do it. Be more aggressive. Be the Gundy that got you here. And we're good. We take that next step. No more conservative Gundy. Let's go for everybody's jugular every single week so every recruit knows if you're coming to the Big 12, State's one of the spots you got to get to. Another thing that we all have to do before we talk about the domino effect that is going to come from this is talk about your next job opportunity, especially if you're in the market of getting the jobs hooked up for people. We all know in today's society, it's a little wonky, a little wacky, a little crazy. So the hiring process is not very simplistic. You got to find somebody that's going to have your back and be in your corner to get you the best candidates, the best times, and the right fit for your company, for your job. So do yourself a favor and get yourself hooked up with LinkedIn right now. You'll be 100% certain that you have access to the most qualified candidates at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the right people for faster, for better, for free. So go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege today. That is, again, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Naturally, this is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. Locked On College has you hooked up with LinkedIn. So there you go. Terms and conditions obviously do apply. So let's get back on the apple cart here. The domino effect. Again, this is not just about Colorado. Colorado and Arizona are the obvious ones. Arizona's already had several conversations with the Big 12. Sure, you could say that Arizona State's kind of goosing things up, but you also know that they are meeting with the Big 12. You know that Utah had a meeting with the Big 12 commissioners just yesterday. Oregon is meeting, which likely means Washington will follow suit. I would imagine that from here on out, the only thing you're going to hear about the Big 12 is positivity. What is everyone going to say if/when, for any of us out there who don't like it, love it, it is what it is. Utah is a strong addition. Utah does add the Holy War. Utah does kind of help a little bit of the stigma of not having Bedlam anymore, not having Red River rivalry anymore. Sure, new rivalries are going to develop. They're going to get established. But as much as I don't love the idea of Utah being in the league, I promise you this, I would much rather have Utah in this daggone thing than Oregon. But again, I'm understanding that Oregon joining the Big 12 is massive for the conference. It is. It's big. It's huge. So would Utah. But so would Arizona. So would Arizona State, because the Big 12 is in a position of power. They are. So when you're in a position of power, it affords you a little bit more of an opportunity to capitalize. So if we wanted to grab a San Diego State, we could. And that does give us leverage, because if Arizona State, I'm just using them as an example, I'm not saying they are, but let's say Arizona State is trying to flex some muscles to where they don't need to go right away. Okay, you're fine. You're right. You don't need to, but we don't need to go grab San Diego State, but we can. You're going to tell me adding multiple, if we had 3 Power 5s, which we will, that adding a G5 doesn't do pretty much almost the same thing? You think that Fox and ESPN and these people are going to be like, yeah, they're G5, we're not going to help you out much? Come on. They know the writing on the wall. They have as much investment, if not more, than the universities financially. ESPN and Fox, whether they're in cahoots or arm wrestling, who knows? Who cares? You have to be at the seat of the table, right? You got to be towards the head of the table. You already hear Texas. They're trying to pull Texas stuff in the SEC, and Greg Sankey's trying to accommodate them a little bit by moving the SEC media days down there to do what? to compete with the Big 12. So again, everybody knows that the Big 12 is a problem right now. Everybody knows the Big 12 is not going away anytime soon. Matter of fact, the Big 12 is getting bigger. It's getting better. It's getting badder. And you know that these commissioners, the Greg Sankeys and the Kevin Warrens, right before he left, of the world, they understand the backdoor conversations that are happening. They knew that Brett Yormark was going to do something. They knew that he was going to be successful. It's an inevitability. It always has been. Well, not always, but the minute that OU and Texas took off and the Pac-12 didn't decide to put the nail in the coffin of the Big 12, this was inevitable. So now that we know that the dominoes are starting to fall, here's some more dominoes, guys. I'm hearing Florida State's ready to rock and roll. Even if it takes them $500 million or some crazy number to get out, they're willing to do so. The term of, what was it, original seven, or I cannot remember the correct acronym that was used. Somebody will correct me down in the comment section. But the 7 ACC schools that supposedly got together, they needed an 8th. You don't think they didn't get it? Now, I do know from a lawyer's type of perspective, there was some dissuasion there, of course. But Florida State sees what's happening, and they see how stuck like Chuck they are in the ACC and how it's not going to benefit them at all. So now it's not only survival, but it's survival of the fittest. The ACC's TV contract has them in a place of weakness. Plus, the product they've been putting on the field isn't all that great either. Yeah, you have some top-heavy teams. I understand Florida State can be awesome. I understand Miami can be awesome. I understand Clemson has been phenomenal. Wake Forest looked pretty good. Sam Hartman was a legit dude. But that's really most of it. The ACC knows this. Florida State knows this. They just watched the Pac-12 start their Titanic nosedive. They know there's teams in the Pac-12 right now scrambling to get out, to do the right thing by their university and get out of the sinking ship. The ACC's writing is on the wall too. That's what happens when you have that negative of a contract. That's why contracts are important. But you see these dominoes, I wouldn't think it's crazy at all to see an ACC school in the Big 12. There will be at least 2 more Pac-12 schools in the Big 12, and that should be announced pretty soon. So, again, the conversations that we've been having, they've been having too. They know what's happening. Regardless of what your John Cazanos or your Monty shows or your Tony Altamores, right, the Pac-12 media types that have been hammering, that some of us that cover the Big 12 have been Big 12 and non-people that are spewing ridiculousness that'll never, ever happen just to try to pump up the Big 12 and put down the Pac-12. Well, all of those individuals lied, bold-faced lied to their fan base on a daily basis, trying to make people that were talking about what was logically out there as crazy people who didn't know anything. Credibility does matter. And it also matters in the coaching realm, which is, again, ladies and gentlemen, why this is the most important year ever for Mike Gundy. It's not just going to be Colorado. There's going to be a force multiplier put into this league that dictates the success that you're going to have in the future. And it starts now. We don't have a lot of idle time. Oklahoma State should not be rebuilding per se. We should be putting ourselves in a position of reloading. So regardless of what you think the talent is or is not this season, it is better than last season. Whether you love the idea of the schedule, it is what it is. This is something we must take advantage of. This season is something we must take advantage of. We can. I really do think that we will, but it's going to take Gundy being ultra aggressive. Right? Look what Sonny Dykes did last year. There was a few games that they should have lost. Like there's 2 games that they should have won. 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 There's No doubt about it. But because of the constant pressure that he put on everybody, it made you make a mistake. And when you made a mistake, they were there to pounce on it. That's all we need. And we know we've got it. There's no more time to be hiding the fact that it's okay to want more. It's okay to be more. It's okay to expect more. It's good. All right. So then we get to go to our main man, defensive coordinator, Bryan Nardo, the guy who nobody knew of when we got him. And I was just like everybody else, knee-jerk reaction. Oh, great. We're going to do this again. But I did a lot of digging. I fell in love very early with Bryan Nardo, right? I'll even try to tag one of those original videos in here. That'll be a good idea. So, yeah, been a fan. But now he's starting to get a little bit of love from ESPN writer Adam Rittenberg. Go figure, ESPN showing us some love. I'm telling you, you can connect the dots. And just like, Fox was pumping out all of the Big 12 numbers. They weren't pumping out Pac-12 numbers. Again, the writing's been on the wall for a while. And the people who chose not to see the writing were purposely doing so. And they were purposely being misled by others. So it's good to see ESPN give us some love. It's good to see ESPN jump in here. But Rittenberg even talked about how it's not only a good story that Gundy once again goes the different route and hires a coordinator from the D2 or FCS style level. There are very good coaches down there that are deserving of being bumped up. That's true, right? They're deserving of getting a bigger contract. But they don't typically get found this early on. So not only is this a big year for Gundy, it's also another year for Gundy to prove that he can be a savant when it comes to hiring in odd ways. Like everybody has a list of the quote unquote top guys in the game, and coaches talk about these top guys in their inner circles. So the fact that Gundy does like to go off the beaten path, and he has been successful in doing so. Yeah, he's had some misses, but he's also had some home runs too. I think this is another home run. If you talk to the players, they'll tell you that, especially on defense. Guys, people were making a big deal about how we lost most of our team in the transfer portal, right? We remember that. We remember hearing all that. We've broke down almost every position and asked you why. Some of them are a concern, yeah, but most often it's not that big of a deal, right? We've done all that fun jazz. But if you do notice after spring, how many dudes did we lose? One whopping guy. So that wasn't talked about enough. Right? It was not talked about enough that what we did after spring was, retain 99% of the daggone kids. The buy-in is real. The buy-in is legitimate, and these players are ready to prove it on the field. So as long as Gundy does what we know he can do, his only job is to put the players in the best positions to be successful. And if the players are successful, ta-da, you got a good product to put on the field. You got a good product to put on the field, you're probably going to win some games. Win some games, you're going to put yourself in a position to go to Arlington. And now we know with conference realignment, with what more we have to come, with the SEC trying to squeeze into Big 12 media days, that this next trip to Arlington will have more eyeballs on it than the last one and the one before that. Right? The viewership is going to get better just because of all the things that are surrounding the Big 12 this season. So if Bryan Nardo's as good as I think he's going to be, Gundy looks like a genius. If Gundy's as aggressive as he can be to take advantage of the successful, he looks like a genius. And we're all not only fine with that, that's how it should be. And Bryan Nardo is somebody that will be here for a long time. Mike Yursich, after we grabbed him from Shippensburg, he was here for a while. He's made a good name for himself, went to Ohio State. Now he's the OC at Penn State. He worked at Texas. That could be another Bryan Nardo, but imagine if Bryan Nardo does have the same success and then decides to stay. There will always be the Ohio State money factor out there. There will always be a Texas money factor out there. Yeah, for sure. But I think this is more than a home run for Gundy. I think this is a grand slam. And this is the perfect season to break it out. This is the perfect season for recruits to see. I'm glad that ESPN is giving Bryan Nardo some love because he does do things differently. His whole family is coaches. He learned under the Nebraska legend Frank Solich at Ohio. While he was going to class every day, he was also learning, not just carrying a clipboard, but learning how to be a coach, learning the ins and outs, the X's and the O's. And who better to learn from somebody like a Solich? So it doesn't matter if FSU decides to leave the ACC. They're probably not coming to the Big 12, but it's more dominoes. The more dominoes that fall, the more teams that we have in the league, the more imperative it is. Not just important, but it's imperative that we capitalize right now because we know that we can. I'm telling y'all. Hammer the over. Of course, hammer the over. Because this is the year that Mike Gundy can take the next step. This is the year he can get Oklahoma State to that next level, the level that we all know we can get to. It's okay to want more. It's okay to believe in more. It's okay to get behind the fact that we can accomplish more. All right, y'all. We got a treat. We got a special guest for the next show. So make sure you tune in for that one. But as for this one goes Horatio, that's all we're going to have. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And thank you guys very, very much for tuning in today to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We are aware that you can go anywhere to get your stuff. So I appreciate the love. Shout out to the regulars, the regulators out there. Appreciate all the comments. Like it, love it, share it, subscribe, comment, all that fun jazz. The road to 1,000 is about to be upon us, as is the season. So, all right, y'all. Later, taters.